My 13-year-old nephew chuckled. Mom says you're just kind of a person nobody would really Mississippi. He said it while unboxing the $700 tablet I paid for. Then everyone laughed. Except me. I just smiled, opened my phone, and severed everything. Credit, rent, tuition, all gone. That night, I left one box in the living room and moved out. I, 34M, used to be the kind of person who believed family meant something. That belief died on a Tuesday afternoon in my own living room. My sister moved in with me 3 years ago after her divorce left her with nothing but debt and a 13-year-old son. I owned a 3-bedroom house outright, worked as a software consultant making decent money, and figured blood was thicker than water. She promised it would be temporary, 6 months tops until she got back on her feet. Those 6 months turned into 3 years of me covering rent she never paid, groceries she never bought, and bills that somehow always slipped her mind. The tablet arrived that Tuesday. I had ordered it for my nephew's birthday next week, a top-of-the-line model he had been obsessing over for months. $700 that I earned through late nights and weekend projects. My sister was on the couch scrolling through her phone when the package came. Her boyfriend, some guy who had been crashing at my place for the past 4 months without contributing a single dollar, sat beside her. My nephew tore into the box the moment I set it down, not even waiting for his actual birthday. He powered it on, his face glowing with excitement, then looked up at his mother and her boyfriend with this smirk I had never seen before. That was when he said it. Mom says you're just kind of a person nobody would really miss. The words came out casual, like he was commenting on the weather. Then he laughed. My sister laughed. The boyfriend laughed. They all laughed like it was the funniest joke they had ever heard. I stood there holding my work bag, still in my button-down and slacks from the office. Something inside me went completely silent. Not angry, not hurt, just silent. I smiled, nodded slightly, and pulled out my phone. My fingers moved across the screen with perfect clarity. First, I removed my sister as an authorized user on my credit card, the one she used for everything from gas to groceries to her online shopping habit. Then I logged into my bank account and canceled the automatic transfer I had set up to cover what she called her share of rent, despite her never actually paying it. I pulled up the email thread with her landlord from before she moved in and forwarded myself the contact information. Next came the tuition portal for the private school my nephew attended, the one I had been paying for because my sister claimed the public schools in our area were not good enough for him. I canceled the automatic payment authorization. The whole process took maybe 3 minutes. Nobody noticed. They were too busy fawning over the tablet, discussing which games to download first. I walked to my bedroom, closed the door, and started packing. I had been planning a work trip to Denver that got postponed. My suitcases were already half packed. I finished the job quickly and methodically. Clothes, toiletries, laptop, documents. I worked in tech. I could do my job from anywhere with Wi-Fi. I had been thinking about relocating anyway. I loaded everything into my car over the next hour, making multiple trips through the side door that led directly to the garage. Nobody checked on me. Not once. I could hear them in the living room, laughing and talking, the sound of the tablet's startup chime playing over and over as my nephew explored his new toy. The hardest part was not the packing. It was realizing how little I actually cared about taking. 3 years of living with them, and I wanted nothing that reminded me of this time. I left the furniture, the kitchen supplies, the TV, everything. I took only what was mine before they arrived. Around 9 that evening, I placed a single cardboard box in the middle of the living room floor. Inside were my house keys, a printed copy of the deed showing sole ownership under my name, a formal 30-day eviction notice I had drafted and printed from a legal template site, and a brief note. The note was simple. I told them I was leaving, the house was mine, they had 30 days to vacate per state law, and I had canceled all financial support effective immediately. I included my lawyer's contact information for any questions. My sister was giving my nephew a bath. The boyfriend was in the kitchen raiding my fridge. I set the box down, walked out the front door, got in my car, and drove away. I did not say goodbye. I did not explain. I did not give them a chance to apologize or manipulate or guilt-trip me into staying. I just left. I checked into a hotel that night and started looking at apartments in other cities. Denver was still on my mind. Maybe Austin. Somewhere far enough that dropping by would not be casual. I blocked my sister's number after the first dozen calls and texts started flooding in around midnight. I did not read any of them. I did not need to. I knew exactly what they would say. Accusations that I was abandoning family, claims that I was overreacting, demands to know how they were supposed to survive. The boyfriend's number tried calling too. I blocked it without listening to the voicemail. Update 1. The calls from unknown numbers started the next morning. I let them all go to voicemail. My sister was using other people's phones, trying to get through. I listened to one message out of morbid curiosity. She was crying, asking how I could do this to her and my nephew, saying she never meant what she said and he was just joking around, that I was taking everything too seriously. She said I was destroying their lives over nothing. Over nothing. Those words stuck with me. 3 years of financial and emotional support was nothing. The fact that her 13-year-old son felt comfortable mocking me to my face, with her encouragement, was nothing. The laughter was nothing. I deleted the voicemail and blocked that number too. My lawyer called that afternoon. My sister had apparently shown up at his office demanding to speak with him. He informed her that eviction proceedings were legal and properly filed, and that she needed to vacate the property within 30 days or face formal eviction through the courts. She told him I was mentally unstable and abandoning a child. He told her that her housing situation and parenting were not his concern, and that she should use the 30 days to secure alternative arrangements. Then she tried to threaten legal action. For what? Neither she nor he seemed to know. He ended the meeting and called to update me. I thanked him and asked him to proceed with anything necessary to protect my interests. I found an apartment in Denver by the end of the week, signed a lease remotely, arranged for movers to pack up my remaining personal belongings from the house. Things like documents, photos from before my sister moved in, a few items with sentimental value. I had the movers work during the day while my sister was supposedly out job hunting, though I doubted she was actually looking. Everything went into a storage unit until my Denver move-in date. The public posts started appearing online around day 10. My sister created a fundraising page describing herself as a suddenly homeless single mother whose cruel brother kicked her out with no warning. She painted me as a monster who threw a child onto the streets over a misunderstood joke. The page included photos of my nephew looking sad, descriptions of their desperate situation, pleas for help with rent deposits and moving costs. She shared it everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, local community groups. Several family members I had not spoken to in years suddenly had opinions about my character. I did not respond. I did not defend myself. I did not engage at all. My silence apparently made things worse in their minds. Cousins and aunts and uncles sent messages calling me heartless, selfish, cruel. One cousin who I had lent $5,000 to years ago and never been repaid told me I was a disgrace to the family. I blocked them all systematically, one by one, as they appeared in my inbox. My mother called. I almost did not answer, but decided one conversation might provide closure. She wanted to know my side. I told her calmly and without emotion exactly what happened. The years of financial support, the lack of contribution, the comment, the laughter. She was quiet for a long moment, then admitted my sister had always been the type to take advantage of kindness, but that I should consider whether this was really worth losing family over. I asked her if she was offering to take my sister in. She said her apartment was too small. I asked if she was offering financial support. She said she was on a fixed income. I asked what exactly she expected me to do then. She got flustered and said I was being difficult. I told her I loved her but would not discuss this further, and ended the call. She tried calling back twice. I did not answer. Update 2. Day 23. I was settling into my new Denver apartment when my lawyer called again. My sister had not made any arrangements to move. She was still in my house, still using my utilities that I had not shut off yet because I needed the eviction to proceed legally, and cutting utilities could complicate things. He asked if I wanted to proceed with formal court eviction since the 30-day notice was almost up. I told him yes. He filed the paperwork that afternoon. My nephew tried reaching me through social media. He sent a message saying he was sorry, that he did not mean it, that he missed me. Part of me wanted to believe he was genuinely apologetic. The larger part remembered the look on his face when he said those words, the casual cruelty, the ease with which he had delivered someone else's venom. I did not respond. He was 13, old enough to understand consequences, old enough to have learned this behavior somewhere. I felt bad for him in an abstract way, but I also knew that continuing to enable his mother would teach him nothing except that using people had no real cost. The fundraiser had raised about $800. Not nearly enough for a deposit and first month's rent in our area. My sister posted updates blaming me for their situation, detailing how they were going to be thrown out on the street, asking why family would do this to family. The comments were mixed. Some people expressed sympathy and donated. Others asked pointed questions about why she had lived rent-free for 3 years and had no savings to show for it. Those comments got deleted quickly. The boyfriend left. I heard through a mutual acquaintance who still spoke to me that he had moved in with another woman he had been seeing on the side. Apparently, living in someone else's house without paying rent was only appealing when it came with zero responsibility. His departure seemed to finally wake my sister up to reality. She got a job, retail, part-time, barely above minimum wage, but it was something. She also started actually looking at apartments she could afford, which meant places significantly smaller and in rougher areas than my house. The court date arrived on day 32. My lawyer handled it. My sister showed up without legal representation and tried to argue that I had verbally agreed she could stay indefinitely. She could not provide any proof of this alleged agreement because it never existed. She claimed I owed her for helping maintain the house, cleaning, cooking, basic upkeep. The judge asked if she had proof of any financial contribution to mortgage, utilities, or property taxes. She did not. The judge ruled in my favor and gave her an additional 14 days to vacate, after which law enforcement would physically remove her if necessary. I got a call from her that night. Not from a blocked number, from her actual phone, which meant I had never reblocked it after changing my number. She was different this time. Not crying, not angry. Defeated. She asked if there was any way to fix this. I asked her if she remembered what her son said to me. She was quiet, then admitted she had told him I was not really important, that I was just someone who was there. She said it was during an argument months ago when he asked why I paid for things, but she made the parenting decisions. She said it was a mistake, and she never thought he would repeat it. I asked her if she ever actually planned to move out or contribute financially. She admitted she had gotten comfortable. She said she thought I would always be there because that was what I did. I fixed things and took care of people. She said she took advantage of that, and she was sorry. She asked if sorry was enough. I told her no. Sorry did not give me back 3 years. Sorry did not erase the laughter. Sorry did not undo the lesson she taught her son about how to treat people who helped you. She started crying then and asked what she was supposed to do now. I told her exactly what everyone else in the world did. Figure it out, stand on her own, and learn to survive without using people. Then I hung up. Update 3. She moved out on day 43, 3 days before the enforcement deadline. I hired a cleaning service to deep clean the house afterward. The place was not trashed, but it was not well maintained either. Stains on carpets, marks on walls, a general sense of neglect. I paid for repairs and repainting, then listed it for rent at market rate. A young couple signed a lease within 2 weeks. Good credit, stable jobs, excellent references. The kind of tenants who appreciated having a nice place and took care of it. My sister and nephew moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in a less desirable part of town. From what I gathered through people who still spoke to both of us, she was working 2 jobs now to make ends meet. My nephew had to transfer to public school. They were struggling but surviving. Part of me felt guilty about that. The larger part recognized that struggle was teaching them something I never could. The actual value of stability and the cost of taking people for granted. I never reached back out. Some family members eventually stopped criticizing me when they realized I was serious about cutting ties. A few even admitted privately that they knew my sister had been using me for years and were surprised I had put up with it as long as I did. Most still thought I was too harsh. I stopped caring about their opinions. Denver suited me. The work was good, the city was interesting, and I had started building a life that was entirely my own. No obligations I did not choose. No people taking advantage of misplaced loyalty. No more being the person nobody would really miss. I joined a climbing gym, started dating someone who actually respected boundaries, made friends who contributed equally to relationships. It was shockingly easy to be happy once I removed the people who were draining me. 6 months after I left, my nephew's birthday came around again. I thought about sending a card. I thought about calling. I thought about a lot of things. In the end, I did nothing. He was 14 now, old enough to understand that actions had consequences, that words mattered, that cruelty was not a joke. Maybe someday he would learn that. Maybe he would grow up and realize what happened and why. Maybe he would become someone different than his mother was raising him to be. Or maybe he would not. Either way, it was not my responsibility anymore. I still think about that afternoon sometimes. The way they laughed. The casual dismissal. The years of my life spent propping up people who saw me as a resource rather than a person. I do not regret leaving. I do not regret cutting them off. I do not regret choosing myself for once. Sometimes the hardest thing about being kind is knowing when to stop. I learned that lesson the expensive way, but I learned it, and that made all the difference. If you like this story, please like this video and subscribe us for more such real-life-based stories. Thanks in advance.